Your business isn't that special. And that's the show. That's all we want to do.
That's all, folks.
So you can go to either end of the extreme here and have problems. You could say, my business is so unique that I don't need to pay attention to these things. That is obviously problematic. You could also go to another extreme and just say, like, your business is just like any other business on the planet, and it doesn't matter what you say, you're not special. And I think really the truth is more complicated than that.
Because the only thing anyone needs to be special is to believe that you can be. I know that sounds like a cat poster, but it's true.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk AI for integrators, how your business isn't special, and how IKEA matters. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 508, Leap of Faith. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She's the co-owner of TruMedia Home. How you doing, Michigan?
We are doing well. Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
Thank you for being here. Then we have Mr. Gary Usher. He's the VP of Marketing at Powerhouse Alliance. How are you, sir?
I'm great today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being here, too. Last but certainly not least is my good friend, Mr. Jason Griffin. He is the Director of Partner Development at OneVision Resources. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're getting snow. It's the middle of November-ish. And yeah.
I'm in Denver, and it's we haven't had any snow yet, and it's like 70 degrees here, so I don't know what's happening. But
that's terrible.
Yeah, I won't complain.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you have some resorts open though, which we do not yet. So I'm dealing with the fool's errand of November snow. It gets me excited, but I can't ski yet. So we're getting there. All right, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro, practical uses for AI in the custom integration industry. Sonance's Ari Supan gave a crash course at CD Expo, which is also, as Amanda mentioned, going to be presented at ISE as well on using AI in your business. Go read through this. It is fantastic, covering a bunch of, things that you can do with a variety of AIs to essentially help your business. Amanda, let me start with you on this. Everyone is obviously talking about AI and using it in your business. Most people that are using it are using it as a Google search.
Yeah.
What is it taking to think beyond the Google search concept of using AI?
I mean, I was the moderator actually for that panel at CD Expo, so I learned a lot. It was a really great group. Ari was in it, Alex was in it. A lot of the key players, Kyle Steele was in it, and the class was packed. We spent a lot of time talking about, how can you use it past the simple Google search or like writing something up. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was, you've got to play around with it. Like all of these things are like all new, they're all emerging. And that was one of the biggest things that Ari said is he goes, you find a couple different blogs that talk about just different things in AI, get a base subscription and just kind of play around with it and see what it is that, you like and how you're using it. And I mean, I've been using some stuff with Artistly.ai for some of my graphic stuff. I've been using a lot of it, built into other softwares and other programs. So I do a lot of like our social media stuff, and I help with a couple other social medias. And like Canva, for example, for your graphics, it has a phenomenal one. I mean, if you can't find something, you can just go right into their AI search engines, kind of write up a description. This is what it is that I'm looking for. And it will create a graphic or create a flyer specifically for what you want. So I think the biggest takeaway is like tinkering around with it, because everyone's a little bit different. And just because you like one today doesn't mean that software is going to be the same one that you like, later on. So like I really started with ChatGPT, like I think a lot of other people did. But like I said, Canva has it built in, Google, you've got some stuff built in. I'm messing around with like the Artistly and different things like that. And I think it's just tinkering with it.
That's a great point. Gary, when you follow this from a marketing, a training standpoint as a distributor, are you guys able to harness this for more than just, again, kind of the basics?
I do. That's cool, Amanda. You were on the panel, because that's like, especially seeing the questions or seeing the look in that audience's eyes, because you're taking them and helping them bridge this. We all are, and it's a leap of faith, Matt. Mm-hmm. We all know that it's going on. The leap of faith is that, oh, okay, that worked. There's a couple things that Ari mentioned in that article, and one of them being, and I loved how he mentioned kind of how he's a CEO and he's using these tools. That's great. Mm-hmm. And, you quickly kind of go there and see what that platform is all about, even before you dive in. But what he said there was talking about the leap of faith and applying this to D tools, for instance. You know what I mean? It's like as an integrator, you're instantly like looking for shortcuts, obviously. So D tools is a great thing. It's like if this can template out and you utilize that for 3 or 4 of your next jobs, fantastic. The integrators can be looking for the bottom line. Now, my profit margins didn't change. It was accurate. Okay, great. That could be an ownership part or a leap of faith, if you will, to continue to strategize and utilize those tools in your own way. Because, Amanda, what he did say in that article was, you have to own it. Or he said, I have to own what comes out of me at the end of the day. So 3 things there. Yeah, I'm new at this. I trust it, and I have to own it too. Yep, all those things. So, but again, seeing that bottom line can quickly get you that comfort level that it probably was like what I was going to bid. It did include all of those weird SKUs that I might have included. I'm talking about in the D tools context. Yeah. And in the marketing context, yeah, CapCut and things like that. It's suggesting things, but you know what? It still is not accomplishing my timing that I'm looking for. So I go in, I adjust, I own, and I dump out. There you go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Jason, when you follow this is kind of reminding me of the social media conversations we were having 10 years ago of everyone wants to use it and everyone has figured out that they can fiddle, but you have to really invest the time to find out where and how to apply it. Are you following kind of that mindset as you guys hopefully use it within OneVision?
Yeah. I'm way down the rabbit hole on this one. Actually, I was happy to see that this was a story. Big time AI user myself. In fact, we just last week had a live stream event with Ari. Ari and I spent about an hour with a live online audience, just kind of going through a lot of this AI stuff, bouncing things around. I jumped on it right when ChatGPT came out. So it's been a few years now, and I kind of have to go back in my mind and remind myself, like, how did I get this far down the rabbit hole? Ultimately, like, I think Amanda was right. It is just getting in there and tinkering, and you have to start to build the muscle to just realize that there's very few things that come across my desk these days where the very first question on my mind isn't, how can I use AI to like make this easier? It doesn't. It's not a silver bullet. It's not doing the work for me, but it is a just an unbelievably good like thought partner, strategy. I use it for strategy. I use it for product management. I use it for data analysis. I use it for generating ideas for, when I get involved with marketing things and so forth. And like, it really is a Swiss Army knife. Ultimately, I think the biggest thing preventing most people from getting the mileage out of it is just the willingness to get in on the front end and spend the time giving it the information that it needs. AI is only as good as the context that you can feed it. So, at the beginning of a project, like it does take me maybe 30 minutes to an hour to sit down and just kind of have a discussion with ChatGPT, explain what I'm trying to do, give it enough information so that it actually gets what I'm doing. But then for the rest of the duration of that project, I've got this ability to just go in there and fire off questions and get answers that are highly contextualized, very accurate. And so really it's just kind of an upfront investment, and I would say a curiosity. If you're out there listening and you've barely scratched the surface with AI, I would strongly recommend like the next challenge that you're faced with this week, just stop what you're doing, spend 5 minutes to go into ChatGPT and just ask it for help thinking through it and just figure out what it's like. I really encourage people, think of it like a person. If you had access to a really smart, like PhD level person who could just act as a sounding board for you, jump in there and just treat it like that. And I think that's a good sort of foot in the door is what I would recommend.
That might be the best example of how to dive into using it that I've ever heard. Because like we used it last week. It was probably like 11 o'clock at night. I was annoying my wife because I'm sitting there going through having it provide deflection calculations for a flooring, an engineered flooring structure for one of my other businesses. And she turned over, she's like, "What are you doing?" Because I'm half talking out loud as I'm doing this, lying in bed watching, some sitcom or something. And again, it was like I was talking to your point, Jason, a 30-year engineering expert on structure. And we figured out the deflection. We figured out how we were going to be able to use this system we were trying to use for this project we're working on. Is fantastic. And if I had to reach out to someone else to do that, it would have taken forever. It cost me a fortune. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Systems. And this one speaks to my core. Your business isn't that special. And that's the show. That's all we want to do. Go read this article from Matt over at Vital, talking about how he used the same tools and the same formulas that he used to scale his integration company to do essentially a fantastic job for a traffic control business. And this is something that I've been hearing, I'm sure everyone else has, as long as I've been in this industry, that our business is different and we're special. And because we're special and our clients are special and everything we use is special, that none of the traditional business principles apply to us. And they just can't work for us. Gary, when you read through this article, business is business. And I'm really happy that someone of Matt's stature, I don't want to say finally came out and said it, but came out and said it. Because as somebody who deals with dealers and, obviously distribution, you've heard this complaint probably more times than I have.
Yeah, or said that about the company. Yeah. It's such a dance, you guys. It's like, our position being very close to the dealer. We have counters, mm-hmm. and they come in on a bad day or a good day, and we're partners. So with that in context, to say I liked his article and his parallel on the traffic management was interesting. It could be anything really. Restaurants. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's the margins, it's the categories. And we do bring that up a lot because, honestly, from the distribution point of view, we are in business with that installer, so to speak. He owes us money. We've extended credit to them. So you could say, hey, you're no different than anybody else. Drop the facade. Let's just do business here. But my salespeople also have that magic. And it's like, I have to make sure he believes that he is unique. Because I've got an agenda too. I want him to try products. I want him to feel that he has niche customers, Jason, in that sense. They do walk out the door emboldened in a sense, or we can help them feel that way. Does that make me feel like I've done a better job or allowing more product to flow to his company per my suggestion? It's a dance, guys. I do agree with the article. It depends, I think, on all four of our, let's say, representation to a customer, where we might stand on it and how to use it. But it is appropriate. I liked it because at the end of the day, collectively, we didn't want to continue to think of ourselves as unique. Therefore, it does not apply. And I think that was the bigger message.
Jason, when you see this and you see him talking about, essentially the metrics, that has been the one thing that has frustrated me about our channel as long as I've been in it, is we can have conversations over, your favorite speaker line or your favorite this or your favorite that. And the emotional attachment supersedes the fiscal aspect of most of those decisions as a rule. How do you convince the channel to recognize that the metrics at the end of the day are really all that matter?
So we are in an industry that does tend to attract hobbyists who sort of back into owning a business, right? And I don't think that like necessarily there's anything inherently wrong with if you own your business and you're not particularly concerned about having like the healthiest bottom line in the world, and you enjoy what you're doing and you're doing enough to make things sustainable and provide for your family and your employees, great. And if you enjoy it, great. But you know, assuming that your goal is to build a more valuable business, then yes, obviously there are universal principles that apply to business, that apply globally, no matter what business you're in. So, you know, when I look at Matt's article, as somebody who's done quite a bit of writing, first of all, I love the title. That's great. It's, gets people to click, right? I agree with Matt and I don't. So here's what I mean by that. I think that ultimately there are universal principles that, again, apply no matter what line of work that you're in. And I do tend to agree with the kind of broad point he's making that, like, as a whole, our industry could probably do better at like paying attention to those things. But I also think that like it is true at a certain level that every business is unique. You operate in a certain market with certain employees, with a certain culture, with a certain set of like unique kind of dynamics that are going on today in the here and now inside of your business. And no two businesses are the same when you look at it at that level. So the art really here is like, yes, pay attention to these global principles, but the art is in learning how to apply them to your unique business. So you can go to either end of the extreme here and have problems. You could say, my business is so unique that I don't need to pay attention to these things. That is obviously problematic. You could also go to another extreme and just say, like, your business is just like any other business on the planet, and it doesn't matter what you say, you're not special. And I think really the truth is more complicated than that. Like, every business is a little bit unique. And so, yes, the principles are universal. And yes, I can make the argument that everybody should pay attention to those. But the process of applying those principles inside of your unique business, that's what really defines like excellent operators from like mediocre ones.
It's so funny to me because the part that you really appreciated of the article in the uniqueness aspect was the part that frustrated me. Because,
well, it's meant to be polarizing, right?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah. But it's one of those things where the way I read that is, yes, obviously, again, you made a great point. Your market is specific. Your clientele is specific. Your go-to-market strategy is specific. But that concept is not unique to our channel or to any one business. That is the same for, gosh, I was in a flooring store this morning. They would argue that aspect of their uniqueness is unique to them as well, even though we hit the same target demos and we're going after the same clients. I love these articles that spark really good conversations. Amanda, when you read this, you and I have had this conversation a ton about my frustration with integrators not paying enough attention to the business side of the business. What do we need to do as an industry to celebrate the uniqueness, to Jason's point, but also, for the love of God, focus on your statements, focus on the bottom line, because it's great to pay yourself and your employees today. What's even better is to know that you can pay them next week.
So it was interesting. We actually had a very interesting, I just came back from the board meeting in London, and we had this conversation. We were talking about education and we were talking about business classes and stuff. And what was interesting is a lot of integrators out there seem to not, like, they want to go to the classes that are technical. They want to go to the classes on social media, like acquiring more people. They really want to go to the classes on, how do I hire more people? How do I get out there in front of customers? But there's this real kind of hesitancy to want to go to the business classes, right? Because they think either they know it or they're embarrassed about like not being able to admit that they don't know something on the business aspect. So part of me, like, I actually made the comment in the board meeting, as I said, I feel like sometimes my husband and I have paid like way more stupid tax That's what we call it at our house, than what we probably needed to. And I feel like integrators were a lot that way, right? Is like, rather than like, sit down and really hammer out and learn the brass tacks and like work with Matt Bernath and work, take these courses and other things out there to learn some of those basics, that aren't so special about us, how maybe we could save ourselves from, having to pay that stupid tax. And it's interesting because the feedback that we got is the manufacturers are far more identifying the fact that they wish CEDIA and other organizations like that offered more business courses, because they're seeing on the other side, like if you're struggling maybe to pay an invoice, for product or whatever that you got, or, that you're struggling with, project life cycle for when that is. And so the businesses, like the larger manufacturers and corporations, are like, look, we'd love to get, integrators, taking them more from that hobbyist type feel to more of that business. And let's get some business courses in front of them. And they're actually the ones that are, really kind of help identifying that. So I thought that was, kind of just an interesting takeaway from my recent trip to London. But I also love the fact that he does take the time out too to say like what's actually special about you. And I think that we really need to capitalize on that, as well, is those are the things that are going to make us unique and special, like how we put those things together in our business, how we take care of our customers. And I literally just had a conversation with someone about this today. And what I think is really interesting about our channel is most of us, for the most part, we just have something different in our DNA. I keep coming across people where I have conversations with larger corporates and corporate companies, and they get a no the first time, and they're like, okay, yeah, it was a no. There's something in our DNA as integrators that we hear no, and we're like, okay, it can't be that way. Let's go through the wall anyhow. We're either going to go through the wall or up or around, or we're going to come up with, a different solution. So we are very creative people. The problem is just sometimes we think that we're too unique in the fact that we don't get some of those basics and we just keep paying stupid tax over. So I think it was a really great article, but yeah, capitalize on what makes us unique and special as well.
I had a comment, you guys. Did you notice I felt that there was an optimistic silver lining right in the very beginning, and then we kind of went down in the article down the path of you being unique, which kind of sounded a little harsh, a little naked there. What I was referring to was that, didn't he say in the very beginning, so you found yourself owning this business, and if you wanted to sell it right now, it would be worth $30,000. There was a number there. Do you remember that? Kind of set up that you were in the right business because your expectancies are going to come true.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't remember what the equation that he used. Jason, maybe you do. It was kind of like, because you had mentioned, hey, I backed myself into this business, with that kind of a dealer too. So you kind of found instinctively you're in the right thing, which kind of goes into what Amanda's saying. Like, yeah, we are special. And so it's almost like we're kind of going back around saying, no, we are special. You know what I mean? Even though it was deconstructing some of the pitfalls by thinking that you are.
Well, don't you think we have more time to focus on what makes us special if we get that foundational truth first of like the business practices? And I think that's what Matt's principle always is like, focus on first building those foundational principles, those things that aren't special, they aren't unique, they're the same for every industry, of getting, the right employees, having employee retention, having, proper processes in place, SOPs, things like that. Do all of that that's not special about the business, learn that foundationally, and then you can really focus on what makes our industry special and unique. That's what I kind of took away from it.
The interesting side that you mentioned, Gary, was, and he's talking about that initial business, the traffic business, and the owner was looking to sell. After 15 months, he says they improved their profits by 750%. So she sold the business. The valuation was 4 times the original offer. The interesting side of our industry is we look at that uniqueness as being special, which it is. But being unique and special does not equate to value. And what falls down for a lot of small business owners, I've got a client and they literally buy and sell businesses. That's all they do. And the thing he continually tells me is that everyone thinks they're special, because they are. and we're all special in our own way and kumbaya and all that jazz. But no one, when it comes to dollars and cents, there's a massive fitness company that's supposedly on the block right now. They have a lot of cachet with their name. They've had 3 deals fall through because as soon as they open the books, it doesn't line up with the public perception of that business. Our industry is the same way. We have a lot of people that are doing a lot of really, really cool things, but that book of business, most like Amanda's book of business, has the value it has because Amanda and Ponch are awesome. It's not to say the rest of her business and her employees are not awesome, but if you eliminate those 2 people out of that business, that valuation is going to change. And the thing I love about what Matt has been doing through Vital is they're focusing on those fundamentals that as an industry not only keep you profitable and move you in a better fiscal position and a better operational position, it also gives you an opportunity to exit.
Yeah.
Which, however you want to do that, however you want to look at that, the shame of most of the services industry is that when an owner goes to retire, the business dies. And the reason the business dies is because no one wants to buy it. Not because it's not a cool business or, has something that people want to do. It's typically because the numbers don't work.
Well,
and investors don't want to touch it.
You have to look at it as if you sold it, is there enough value there that someone couldn't just retake over your location or whatever the case may be, open up another business with not paying you anything and have as much stability.
That's
the same principle. I mean, my mom owns a flower shop and I'm telling her that all the time. She's like, she has a perception of what the value is of her business. And I'm like, but Mom, if you closed it down tomorrow and someone else didn't buy your business, but just put another flower shop in the same place, where's the value? Like, what would they lose out? And the fact of the matter is so often there's nothing foundationally there. So you have to have that foundation base there, then focus on your uniqueness.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow when you start looking at it from that viewpoint. All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This will be a little bit more uplifting. Not that Jason was very uplifting. I was not. Which is so on brand. All right, this comes to us from Engadget. IKEA has announced new Matter-compatible smart home products. The lineup includes smart bulbs, sensors, some remote controls, etc. They've got 21 new items that they're releasing coming up. I've lost the release date. My apologies. They're not released yet. They're coming, and they will obviously be market specific to some point. Amanda, Matter has been getting a lot of buzz, seeing, again, another very public-facing company like IKEA jumping on the Matter bandwagon, for lack of a better term, and bringing out some sensors that are going to work with that. Is this another kind of validation of Matter and an opportunity for the general consumer to understand it? Or is this going to get lost in the shuffle of, what'd you say, Gary, the hubs of like 2014?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's as with everything, right? When things come out less expensive, right? And they come out at IKEA, what it does for me is it creates an opportunity where people know about it. Like the vast majority of consumers know about it, and it can start a conversation for me. It opens up their mind to some possibilities and stuff. I think as with everything, unless you're like, we have this happen all the time with clients. Like the husband will be real techie, right? And he'll buy this and he'll buy that and he'll piece this together and piece that together. But he's the only one that can create the experience in the house. And he thinks it's all cool and he geeks out, but his family's frustrated with the technology. And I think that that's what happens when these products come out. And where our opportunity is as integrators is to say, well, yeah, you can do it that way, right? Like it can be done that way. But if there's only one person in the house that can make it function, make it work, it's a frustrating experience for everyone else. Integrators can really come in and say, no, we can make this all function a lot easier. We may not use the exact same products, right? Like IKEA products. Same with like the Alexa, right? When those Alexa Dots came out, I mean, every freaking house, everyone got one for Christmas. But what did it do? It got everyone thinking about voice technology. So like, I hope everyone buys all 21 products out there, has a really shitty experience with it, but they were open up their brain to the possibility. And then they find me and say, okay, well, at least I know that things can happen. How could you do it on a better scale, Amanda? Because I think that that's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to buy all 21 or all 11 products, try to tinker them all in, and their wife is going to kill them because like she won't be able to use it. And she's going to find me on some blog or some chat or through one of her friends. And she's going to say, Amanda, help me out. My husband's making me crazy. And it'll be an opportunity. So, and they won't have spent a lot of money on it because IKEA stuff historically is not expensive. So they won't feel so bad if I tell them to check it and we can make a better experience. That's, I don't know.
There you go.
That might be an interesting take on it.
Gary, on one hand, I want to hate this. On the other hand, I have high hopes that IKEA can do something in the smart home realm that furthers the industry. But I do worry that this is going to be the same as their Sonos debacle, for lack of a better term, where did it work? Yeah. Did most people just walk by the odd exhibit or little display as they were trying to get to some meatballs?
Right.
Does this have any chance?
Yeah. Again, just like Amanda, that was great. And I had no idea we could do F-bombs or S-bombs on this show.
I'm
so
sorry.
Jason and I are going to go at it. No, hey, listen, empowering the end user, we're all about it, right? And so I think that looking at that article with that SKU stack, the way it looked, it was not a technology-driven advertisement. It was more matter. So that's cool, just such in the same way that I saw like kind of Dante reach that end result in a way. That technology getting to, that dad, that's fine. We'll take it from there, as far as, distro is concerned and talking about these products, supporting it wherever they're seen. And being able to have that conversation. We can do that and 16 times better. So I just hope to have that conversation. Yeah, I don't trust the technology entirely as, and I thought that they sat it evenly with matter. If it was the other way around, like this technology is groundbreaking, it's going to be kick-ass. Here's my A-bomb. No, I just didn't feel that from the article. Jason, I don't know how you felt about it as well. Let's see what happens. It might not be a huge impact, but
yeah, Jason, is this IKEA's version of Johnny Cash's Cadillac?
I'm not sure exactly, but I got to tell you that I had to look at the date on this article when I was like, is this because so some of your listeners may remember I used to do a home tech podcast, step back from that years ago, but like we started that podcast right around the time that Nest got acquired by Google. And then there was this whole kind of like, we used to call it hub mania, right? Where like you had Home Depot and Lowe's and Staples. And, this is when Apple was first getting into HomeKit and like all of these big consumer brands kind of getting in. And IKEA was even starting to do some stuff years ago. So when I saw IKEA still kind of making moves here, it just sort of gave me flashbacks to that. Look, here's my take on it. So first of all, at OneVision, one of our big kind of operating, our big kind of thesis on the market is that if you just take where we are today and go 5 years into the future at any point in time, there's going to be more technology in the home at that point in the future than there is today. So technology is just going to increasingly make its way into homes in all sorts of different form factors, right? Professionally installed, DIY, everywhere in between. And ultimately, like that's just sort of a given. You have to sort of separate your feelings about that from the fact that it's just the way that things are going to progress. And then do your best as a business to sort of look for the opportunity in it, right? So I think Amanda's points were really good. I I do think that, IKEA appears to be focusing on some use cases that to me make sense for this kind of product, right? There's smart lighting. There's things like leak detection. These are not like exotic, crazy use cases. These are useful things that if somebody can take this device home, plug it in, get it working, great. I think they're going to, by and large, is going to maybe open their eyes up to the possibilities of technologies in the home. I don't think these things have a big bearing on the CEDIA market one way or the other. I think at the margin, they may present some opportunities like the ones Amanda was talking about. I also don't see them necessarily taking business away from integrators. They're just different clientele, right? And so ultimately, I think by and large, more technology being out there is better for our industry. I think it comes with trade-offs. And again, it's kind of a complicated thing. You can look at both sides of it. But ultimately, I'm with Gary. Let's see where it goes. I don't think it's going to be earth-shaking one way or the other for the typical integrator out there. And overall, I think it's going to be a positive more than it's going to be a negative.
Man, I was all excited to create some uniqueness for the business, for my company out of partnering with IKEA.
The uniqueness is in the names. Did you see the names
I know.
of some of those products?
Yeah.
Yes.
You shouldn't be able to order it. You cannot say, let's see, Alps.
If you can't pronounce it.
Alpstuga for air quality.
Then no one's ever buying a single thing from IKEA because the only thing we can all pronounce is Kallax. Because that's the only one people can say.
I mean, everyone should read the article just to read the names and just practice. That should be like you should have to print off all the names and then ask your employees the name of this product, have to match it up to what that product is actually going to do.
Right, exactly.
They have no rhyme or reason, and give your employees a prize if they can match them up.
That's fantastic. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you all for joining us. Amanda, if people want to connect with you, learn more about TruMedia Home, where can they do that?
As always, on any type of social media, TruMediaHome.com, TRU, no E in it, MediaHome.com. And yeah, even on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of the above, Matt, just because I love you.
I know. I appreciate it. Gary, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Powerhouse Alliance, where can they do that?
Thank you so much. PowerhouseAlliance.com supports 9 different distributors across the country, 21st Century, UI Supply, Pioneer, Mountain West. Come check us out. You'll see my podcast on trainings. I take product trainings very seriously. Every 2 weeks I do a podcast. So Usher at PowerhouseAlliance.com. Thanks, guys.
Love it. Thank you, sir. Mr. Griffin, if people want to connect with you, learn more about OneVision, where can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. OneVisionResources.com is our website. So I'd encourage you to pop over there and check us out. And if you want to connect with me, I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best place to do that. Just search for Jason Griffing. I'm pretty active over there, and we look forward to seeing that. So thanks again for having me, Matt.
Oh, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us as well. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on most of the socials. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hey listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.